This video includes topics with upsetting and potentially disturbing themes. While I do my best to choose my words carefully, viewer discretion is advised.
And I need the West to understand something. Bombs kill people.
Whoa.
Did you know
They
that?
do. Wait, whoa. Did he say bombs kill people?
I had no idea. So what do you guys think about the conflict? And I say what I always say. I say, well, I think Israel should be much harsher. What do I think of the Israeli settlements in the West Bank? I think lots of them are completely justified.
Given how I chose to begin this video, I know it's easy to presume that this is a video about Israel and Palestine, but it isn't. The problem I want to talk about today predates October 7th of 2023. This problem is difficult to define or pin down, but I'll give it my best shot. Its symptoms are evident in the conduct of one of the most popular ex-Muslim YouTubers in the English-speaking world, Apostate Prophet, or AP for short. And though he's not the only manifestation of that problem, he's the most prominent figure with the largest reach, and therefore the largest potential to cause harm. So it feels to me more urgent to voice my displeasure about him first. All opinions I share in this video are my own, but they're also commonly echoed among other ex-Muslims. First, I'd like to tell you a bit about my first exposure and my first impressions of AP. I think it's important to understand where I'm coming from. Years ago when I first found his channel, I had already lost almost all of my faith. It had been years of doubt and self-doubt up until I decided to get to the bottom of things and determine once and for all what I think about Islam. And like many Muslims and ex-Muslims over the past several years, Apostate Prophet was my first exposure to Islamic criticism on this website. His channel is one of the first search results to pop up on YouTube if you look up controversial topics in Islam. I was surprised to hear anyone criticize Islam, let alone so bluntly. Some of the topics he mentioned were familiar to me, and the information presented matched what I already found, so I quickly dismissed my knee-jerk suspicion that he's making it up to taint Islam. But there was something about his delivery that made me uneasy. He had a tone of righteous indignation and a consistently sarcastic demeanor. When I thought of AP, I imagined him with a condescending and mocking smirk on his face. Like many ex-Muslims, I had felt a shock from realizing the extent of Islam's darker side, and I didn't want to transfer that emotion onto him. Don't shoot the messenger. But even as the initial shock wore off, I felt more frustrated and bitter with every video that I watched. My internal monologue went from, how could I have believed this, to, how could they believe this? How could they be so stupid and intellectually dishonest? I didn't perceive anything he said at the time to be explicitly hateful of Muslims, but he did exude a sense of superiority and disgust. He mentioned that he used to be very religious, yet he didn't speak like someone who understood what that was like. He spoke like someone who transcended that state of blind religiosity and now resented those who couldn't do the same thing he did. He acted like it's so unfathomable that people would believe in silly or harmful or hateful things, despite having been there himself. At the time, I made playlists of videos about Islam-related topics, and I often found myself omitting his videos from the playlists I would share with other people. I would have been too embarrassed to share his videos with a Muslim friend, for example, and I thought it was pointless anyway. His tone would have driven them away. After binge-watching a bunch of his videos, I noticed the emotional toll it took on me, and I decided to take a break. And I later found my way back to ex-Muslim YouTube through channels like Hassan Radwan and Friendly Ex-Muslim, and half a dozen other Arabic channels. I still felt cheated and duped by Muslims and Islam, but that feeling started to subside gradually with time. Because I'm human, and humans are social creatures, I found myself full of thoughts and emotions that I needed to discuss with someone. I had already spoken with Muslims in my life about issues I found in Islam way before I even learned about the existence of ex-Muslims. I had spoken to many sheikhs and faith counselors and family members and friends, and then I found myself online, participating in ex-Muslim spaces, and eventually starting my own channel. That's when I rediscovered AP's channel, and that's when I paid more attention to the fights the da'wah men, the Muslim proselytizers, were picking with him. They were extremely intellectually dishonest, extremely off-putting characters, and so unapologetically hateful. I saw the way they twisted their own scripture and spewed hateful vitriol every chance they got. By comparison, AP was a polite and harmless angel. Even though his humor wasn't always my cup of tea, a bit cringy and clowny at times, I recognized that it takes all kinds, and I appreciated how he bravely fought back against the abrasive da'wah men of YouTube. He also served as a lightning rod that diverted a lot of negative attention away from other ex-Muslim channels. I spoke to him a couple of times over the years, and he mentioned how he liked riling up people and getting a reaction. and I'm not sure if that was his way of accepting his unfortunate position, or if he actually enjoyed being a part of the emotionally charged debate bro climate. People kept comparing me to him, many claiming that I'm a copycat or just another hateful Islamophobe. I was often asked to answer for his alleged misdeeds and public scandals, and I always maintained that we are two different people, and I don't have to answer for anything he says or does. I didn't keep up with his videos much, and I didn't notice any particularly hateful sentiments I felt compelled to publicly rebuke him about. So I kept on doing my thing and finding my purpose in this space. I made videos and live streams critiquing Islam, and I also spoke to believers every week. The more I spoke to them, the more I humanized them, and the less I felt personally offended by their harmful or absurd or hateful beliefs. As much as I tried to ignore AP's channel, I couldn't help but notice his increasingly frequent collaborations with David Wood, a Christian preacher who spends more time talking about Islam than Christianity. AP's channel had already received a significant following of non-Muslims, which is not in itself a bad thing. It is important for people to hear about the unappealing parts of Islam and life under Islam, which often go underreported by Muslims. The problem was the climate created by his channel's audience. Picture this. You're a Muslim or an ex-Muslim, and you tune into a live stream where an atheist and a Christian make cringy, lowbrow jokes about Islam for hours on end, with an audience of Christians and Hindus empathically cheering on. Imagine how disturbing and alienating and hostile that feels. I felt it, and countless other people reported feeling the same thing. I commonly hear stories about how AP's channel distressed questioning Muslims and ex-Muslims. It fits so perfectly into the supposedly false narrative we were indoctrinated with, that anyone who criticizes Islam does it out of hatred, and they're probably rooting for a rival religion as well. It's one thing to raise awareness for the struggles of ex-Muslims and anyone else harmed by the religion. It's another thing to pander to an audience's fear and make them feel personally persecuted even if they aren't. His channel became a place where you can find and cultivate hate rather than safety or a path to resolution. And whatever integrity and credibility AP had started to seem less and less evident. To sit in the company of a theist and mock another religion's far-fetched beliefs is truly a sight to behold. He sits around for hours reading silly super chats, letting David rave about Muslims worshipping a false prophet. Newsflash, as far as we know, all prophets are false prophets. At least that's what an atheist like AP believes. Or laughing about how Muhammad rode a flying horse to heaven, while David and his followers believe Jesus ascended on a cloud. You'd think AP would say something about it, but when he's in David Wood's company, he seems to shrink in presence and echo most of what David says or does. One time he got a lot of backlash for eating a page of the Quran, but guess who did it first? David Wood. Let's imagine for a second that an atheist who's vocally critical of religion, like Matt Dillahunty for example, had an allyship with Muhammad Hijab, a Muslim preacher. Imagine them live streaming together for several hours a week, snickering at the absurdity of the Holy Trinity together, chuckling at how stupid someone has to be to believe that man could be God. Would you think that Matt is a brave and honest fellow who's masterfully exposing the truth about Christianity? Or would you think that he's a hypocrite and a grifter who sold his integrity for a devout audience and a monetary gain? Was all that AP went through really worth it if he now relies on super chats like these to pay the bills?
Ever since AP and Dizzle went to Israel, I have no one to whom to make filthy mopus jokes about. Cows, goats, Ellen, trajectory, Dua Lipa, Muslim cowgirl, and jizya-stained robes. Guess I felt strapped down. It's always
Feels
the news.
feels so empty without us.
Feels so empty without me.
In reality, AP's situation is much more challenging than someone like Matt Dillahunty's. Despite Matt also being a bit abrasive and generally not an approachable teddy bear of a critic, he did not receive a fraction of the hate that AP did. He doesn't have to fear for his life or the safety of his loved one, unlike AP, who has received plenty of threats against himself and his family. Taking all that into consideration, I can understand why AP might find allyship in David Wood when he couldn't easily find it elsewhere. But it doesn't excuse the person he has become. Maybe this was always his personality and it's only coming to light now. Maybe it started with the hate he received from Muslims, or maybe David Wood's inability to feel empathy is rubbing off on him. Here's just one example of how they talk about the death of people they don't like, Palestinians.
And I need the West to understand something. Bombs kill people.
Whoa!
Did you know
They
that?
do? Wait, whoa! Did he say bombs kill people?
Yeah, I had no idea. This is insane.
Gosh, this guy should be president of the United States, man.
I know, this is insane. This is like,
It's good. It's good Pierce has him on to be sharing this powerful information.
yeah, I don't think anybody.
Wait, just to clarify, he's saying if you drop a bomb on me, it could kill me?
Yeah, it sounds stupid, but that's what he's saying. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, by the way, I also found out after I saw this, I found out that if you shoot somebody, they die too. Like if you shoot somebody in the head, it kills them, for example, because the bullet goes in there and it drills into your head and it kills you.
No, I think they just fall asleep and then they wake up.
Yeah, you're probably misinformed, like most people. But yeah, this guy is bringing out the real truth here, man.
Wow.
This is genius.
He's dropping truth bombs
Yeah, absolute
all
truth
over
bomb.
Pierce Morgan.
I don't know if this was a pathetic attempt at humor or if his countless hours around David have acclimated him to his cold-blooded psychopathy, but it's disturbing to say the least. Can you imagine saying this to the relative of a dead Palestinian or even a dead Israeli?
If you shoot somebody in the head, it kills them, for example, because the bullet goes in there and it drills.
One thing is clear. Ever since he started allying with David, AP's vitriol and condescension has reached stratospheric heights. Despite him often saying that he doesn't hate Muslims, he usually follows it up with demonstrating that he pretty much does. You can really start to see it come to light after October 7th, when Hamas attacked unsuspecting Israelis, took hostages, and murdered over 1,000 people. Ever since, Israel launched multiple attacks on Gaza, murdering tens of thousands and injuring multiples more, with a lot of Palestinians now starving to death and unable to access humanitarian aid. Ever since October 7th, AP has not stopped unconditionally supporting and praising Israel's every move. He says the most dehumanizing things about Palestinians, while presenting himself as a fair and nuanced crusader of the truth. In this tweet, he recognizes that Israelis cannot be considered culpable and fair game just because they're Israeli. He understands the concept of an innocent civilian. While in this tweet, he responds to a picture of a woman's demolished home by saying, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." It is clear what he is insinuating, that the Palestinian civilian is more deserving of homelessness and death than the Israeli. In this tweet, he says that he never claims there are no innocent Palestinians, while in this one, he thinks that the destruction of Gaza is the consequences of your own actions. Who is this collective you that he claimed he recognizes not a collective? And mind you, a lot of these are tweeted on the same day. The fact that he can code switch so quickly is unsettling. When asked about his thoughts on Israeli settlements in Palestinian land, which continue to expand to this very day, he said this.
What do I think of the Israeli settlements in the West Bank? I think lots of them are completely justified. Some of them might be too aggressive, others not. Consider, for example, the whole Hebron. Like there's a settlement effort toward Hebron and around Hebron. Hebron was a Jewish city for millennia, for thousands of years, for centuries before the 1900s. In 1929, the Arab population in Hebron forced the Jewish population to flee Hebron. They killed lots of people, kicked out the rest, and they had to be removed, evacuated. Some of them came back later, and they were finally completely evacuated in the late 30s. And now there are efforts by the Jewish population to get back there. Do I think that is not justified? I think that's completely justified. And the way that the other side acts, yeah.
Notice his use of language. He thinks Jewish population expanding into Palestinian land is justified, albeit too aggressive at times. And simultaneously, his opinion on Palestinian territories is that they're destitute out of their own fault, the same territories that he supports illegal Jewish settlements creeping into.
While on the other side, we have two territories that contributed nothing to the world and live on donations from the world. Territories where you can't even produce anything of cultural or commercial significance because you have to be busy complaining and protesting all the time and suppressing culture and freedoms and punishing your own people.
Even if he strongly believes that Israel truly had no choice but to kill tens of thousands of people, he can still do a better job at empathizing with the victims. He can still criticize Israel and the IDF instead of unapologetically singing their praises every chance he gets. If he recognizes that innocent people are dying every day, according to his own admission, how could he go to Israel and pose with a military vehicle like it's some sort of fucking field trip? The glee that these two have while discussing heavy topics is truly disturbing. The way they flippantly joke about rape and child molestation, the way they throw these words around and laugh in the same sentence, the way they desensitize the audience to these words. I don't think they actually care all that much about the victims.
Make it a rule to, whenever we mention Hamas, to refer to them as racist, terrorist Hamas rants. So that would be interesting to do that.
You need something that flows a little better.
Okay, fine.
So you got to put it together like child murdering, rape, say Muhammad, right? You got to, it's got to flow. We'll work on it. We'll work on our Hamas thing, and then we'll get everyone saying it.
I would just say ham ass. I don't know, something.
Yeah,
like
that's too easy. That's like gay pee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's too cheap.
And if they do care about the victims, scoring points and making jokes seem to take precedence. I don't think a lot of victims feel relief when they watch two grown men acting like edgy teenagers and using their suffering as a gotcha, as a way to score points against the opposition. I'll go even further to accuse them of enjoying suffering, as long as it's righteously deserved. In this clip, AP says to an Israeli woman how he really feels about the war.
But we're talking to an Israeli there, like regular Israelis, a regular Israeli waitress, and she goes, "So what do you guys think about the conflict?" And I say what I always say. I say, "Well, I think Israel should be much harsher." And do you know what she says? An Israeli person, an average, regular, young Israeli person. What she says to me is, "Well, I don't know. I think that we did a lot of wrong against the Arab population, and I think that of course they have a reason to fight, and we should acknowledge that." And she just goes down that path, and I'm thinking, what in the world is this?
And she also said that she goes every single week to protest against Israeli settlements in the West Bank.
Yeah.
So yeah, she says she's at the protests every week, and so we're just giving her some info on how to follow our discussions.
I tried not to argue too much. I just said, you should check out this video and this video, like it will inform you on this matter.
So after raising more than enough money for an all-expenses-paid trip to Israel to, as he puts it, have a closer look at what has been happening over there, he laughs at an Israeli for being too empathetic, and they proceed to educate her on how it's really all about Islam and how Israel can do no wrong. Instead of using that opportunity to learn more about what's happening over there or ask her the specifics of what she thinks, he dismisses her and hopes that she learns from him and adopts his view. Who needs empathy and understanding and nuance and a local's lived experience when you got these two pompous American heroes to tell you the real truth? That doesn't seem to me like a fact-finding mission or a journalistic investigation, but a propaganda tour, parading around the token ex-Muslim and showing him how great Israel is. They went there with their narratives already set, and they had no intention of ever changing them. This is a good reminder that being an expert in one thing does not make you an expert on everything. I'm sure David and Radwan can cite verses and hadiths all day, but that doesn't make them experts on geopolitics and war. There's no denying that a lot of Muslims are anti-Semitic, or even that Islamic scripture itself is anti-Semitic. But there's more to it than religion and anti-Semitism. He excuses and justifies Israeli transgression and pretends they have nothing to do with the conflict whatsoever.
What do I think of the Israeli settlements in the West Bank? I think lots of them are completely justified. Some of them might be too aggressive.
And the fact that he wishes Israel would be much harsher?
And I say what I always say. I say, well, I think Israel should be much harsher.
What does that even mean, really? Harsher as in more bombs? More aid restriction? The Palestinian death toll that he insists is overinflated, is it still too small for his liking? Apostate Prophet is a man of Turkish origin. How is whiteness and tradition relevant to him or the point he's trying to make? Who is he really addressing here? Can you think of a demographic that clutches their pearls at the narrative that whiteness and tradition are under attack? Can you hypothesize who he could possibly be dog whistling here? I'll give you a hint. They tend to donate generously in church and to other causes they perceive to be holy, like, for example, Christianity's fight against the evils of Islam. The people that David Wood and Apostate Prophet fearmonger to about the dangers of Islam creeping into their lives, most of them have never truly faced any of it and likely never will. And whatever valid criticism and warning these two have about Islam, it gets buried under their hypocrisy and hate, appealing mostly to those not in the know. Instead of using his platform to improve the lives of those who suffer under religion, he uses it to empower an audience of non-Muslims to behave as if they're part of an imminent holy war, and as if they know better than those who experience the religion themselves. Meanwhile, it's Christianity that poses the most danger to Americans' rights and freedoms, not Islam. Does Roe v. Wade ring a bell? You should see the way his audience reacts to any critique of him or David Wood or any disagreement with their positions. They turn hostile towards us, accusing us of being secret Muslims or secret cultists or worse, terrorist supporters. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that one cannot care for ex-Muslims if they're a Christian or a Hindu or a Jew. What I'm saying is that the kind of audience fostered in environments like these, they're not our allies. We are pawns to them. As soon as we stop being useful as their poster child victim of Islam, they attack us with the same religious zeal and vitriol that we receive from Muslim extremists. His audience views him as a crusader against Islam and a savior of ex-Muslims, while a lot of us view him as a guy who profits off of people's suffering to make cheap jokes and win a popularity contest. It may not have started that way, but unfortunately that's where he's at now. Whether he likes it or not, whether he intended on it or not, Apostate Prophet is the de facto representative of a lot of ex-Muslims in the English-speaking world. That comes with a responsibility that I don't think he recognizes or respects. At first, it was annoying and embarrassing to have him as our unofficial spokesperson, but now it's downright dangerous. He perpetuates negative stereotypes about how blindly anti-Muslim and hateful apostates are, because evidently he is. He teaches hundreds of thousands of people how to dull their empathy and respond to disagreement with asinine slogans and slurs. He turns people away, both questioning Muslims and ex-Muslims, because of his tone, his hypocrisy, and his unwelcoming space. I urge AP, even when he disagrees, to treat individuals with dignity and humanity, the same dignity and humanity he wished he were treated with when he was a Muslim or when he first left Islam. I know that making a video like this might fracture the so-called ex-Muslim community, but that's fine by me, because we're not one global community, and whatever's going on in his channel, I want no part of that sort of community. I don't want to be among a crowd of zealots who call me or anyone else an Abdul or a Peter worshipper at the slightest hint of disagreement. The way I see it, his mission and mine are not at all aligned. Perhaps they once could have been, but they're not anymore. And I see him causing more harm than help. And I think being silent about his conduct could be misconstrued as an implicit allyship, so I think it's important to voice our disagreements loudly and publicly. And based on the feedback I've received, a lot of ex-Muslims had the same thoughts, but hadn't yet heard them articulated openly. So it's been a long time coming. I don't think that my way of doing things is the only way or even the best way. I want diversity in our representation. But how it stands right now, whether he intended on it or not, AP has a bit of a monopoly in our voices. His reach and visibility as an apostate or an ex-Muslim far eclipses the rest of our channels combined. Maybe that's due to all of his hard work over the years, or due to great timing, or maybe his controversy-seeking behavior, or his partnership with David Wood, or the fact that his divisive rhetoric appeals to a lot of non-Muslims who boost his reach. He is alienating so many of us and wasting his incredible potential in the process. He has caused irreparable harm to the ex-Muslim movement in the English-speaking world. We are already demonized by many Muslims and will continue to be for a very long time, but what he does isn't helping fight that. I use the label apostate to take back its ownership because apostate or murtad are often used against us as insults. Whatever work I do to take back that label, I have to first undo all the harm that he's done to tarnish it. And that's really unfortunate because he started off by helping so many people, so it's sad to see him fall from grace like that. Like I said, this isn't exclusively an AP problem, but he's the most prominent example. The way I see it, the underlying problem is hate. And I'm not validating the false accusation that we're inundated with, that critics of Islam do it because they're hateful. That is not true. I'd point at my own channel, but of course I'm biased. So if you look at the Arabic side of ex-Muslim YouTube, you'll find that pretty much all of the popular voices are not at all hateful. So why is it so different on this side of the pond, so to speak? The world of a vocal ex-Muslim activist is a hostile world, regardless of where we are. It's no secret that Muslims generally do not take kindly to apostates, especially ones who are critical of their religion openly. They demonize us, threaten us, and persecute us if they can. That is a reality that a lot of non-Muslims are afraid to acknowledge, lest they be perceived as bigoted or hateful. This makes us isolated and we struggle to find allyship or community, and sometimes we lose touch with Muslims in our day-to-day lives out of necessity or comfort. Perhaps that reduces our exposure to Muslims to the worst examples we see online or in our lives. Add that to the anti-ex-Muslim hostility rubbing off on us, and it's feasible that some of us get stuck in that spiteful state for a very long time. In the Arab world, it's a lot more difficult to accuse an ex-Muslim of bigotry or racism because they're among their own kind. and they're constantly exposed to Muslims because they live among them. That comes with its own challenges to ex-Muslims, but it also grounds us and reminds us that there's more complexity to humans than what they say they believe. When it comes to online content, hate and controversy and divisiveness are always more appealing to the algorithm and to the masses. There's no sensationalism or profit in empathy and nuance. Even if someone doesn't start off as hateful, I can see how their social media feed would turn them that way. So what can we do to change that? How can we reclaim our voices? We can start by speaking up against wrongdoings, even if that means being critical of people in our own group. We shouldn't idolize anyone, even if they're taking a huge risk by being a vocal activist for our cause. Don't take a YouTuber's word as Bible, no matter how much you trust their judgment. Work on sharpening your own critical skills. We should encourage intercommunal and intra-communal discourse so that we're afforded more opportunities to revise our own opinions rather than echoing them among ourselves. We should take a more active role and participate in discourse ourselves rather than trusting a few representatives to do it for us, like on this channel's Discord server, for example. And hopefully, as it becomes safer to do so, we should have more diversification in our public voices, because no single person can or will accurately represent all of us. I know I'll be asked in the comments, you seem to have so much to say, why did you make this video instead of talking to AP about it directly? Well, it's because I have so much to say. I wanted to make sure that I got it all out and showed examples of what I take issue with, because I don't want to do this criticism a disservice. And since he's a public figure who makes public statements, it seems fair to critique them publicly. I suspect that most of his followers wouldn't take issue with me publicly critiquing a Muslim preacher for saying apostates should be killed, for example, so the same principle applies. Besides, how do you even begin a conversation with someone who jokes about bullets and skulls? I couldn't think of a way that wouldn't make me seem too friendly or too hostile. But now that I made my disagreements clear, I'm open to having a conversation about it with Apostate Prophet if he wishes, or he's free to respond in a video, or not at all. I said what I needed to say, and I'm glad that I finally got to echo a lot of sentiments I noticed in the ex-Muslim community that I am a part of. Thanks for watching this video. If you believe in the importance of the work that I do and you wish to see more of it, give the video a like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and consider becoming a patron or YouTube member, or donating to the channel, like these folks have done. Thank you all for your support. I couldn't do it without you. And as always, think critically, and think for yourself, and consider watching one of these videos next. Was it over here? Yeah, over here.